Now, I've gotten a rare chance to interact with the pilots as we fly back to Nairobi, and in charge is Captain Eric Mbugwa. So you are in charge, Captain Eric Mbugwa. What does this exactly mean?
So basically, when we left New York, we had two sets of pilots. So I'm the crew A, and my colleague, Captain Kinuthia, is now the crew B. So I am in charge of the takeoff and landing of this aircraft, and my colleague will be in charge of the cruise part of the flying for this aircraft. So myself and First Officer Said here are in charge of the aircraft as we take it towards Nairobi. My colleagues are currently resting. In another 5 hours or so, they'll take over. They'll do the pretty much 3/4 of the cruise end of the flight. And then thereafter, we will come in approximately 1.5 hours to landing. We'll take over and complete the flight. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So Captain Kinuthia was in charge of the flight between Nairobi and New York.
That's correct. That's correct.
So you interchange.
So we interchange that, and that's why we also get proper rest periods between the set of crews that are operating the flights. Mm-hmm. That's right. So
and you have two captains, two first officers. So who does what exactly?
So currently, as we the way it's formatted in Kenya Airways and in our operations manual, the captain is the one who's in charge. So I did the takeoff, and I'm gonna also do the landing. My colleague, First Officer Said, is assisting me with radio work, paperwork, and everything else that encompasses the operation of the flight. Obviously, when I need maybe to step outside, he is in charge. So he's the second in command currently as we speak. Then the Captain Kinuthia and First Officer Kipsambo, who are resting, when they come back, they'll still take over the same roles and proceed on with the flight.
Yes. And when you reach Nairobi, how long will you stay, maybe resting, before you embark on another flight?
So currently, because there's a 7-hour difference between Nairobi and New York, we are going to have a minimum of 48 hours in Nairobi. So that's 2 days in Nairobi. And thereafter, we can't do a flight towards the east because, again, you'll be going the other side of the GMT. So we need to do flights maybe towards Europe, which are within close to towards the GMT, and within that time we'll have acclimatized and come back to the normal Nairobi time. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So where are we as we fly back to Nairobi?
We are over the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know whether you can pick up that. So we are in Ganda airspace, basically Canadian airspace. Shortly in another 30 minutes or so, we are going to cross over into Santa Maria airspace and setting course towards the African coastline, the West African coastline. We are looking at touching West Africa today around inside Morocco, around Casablanca, thereabouts. This is a routing that we had from Nairobi to New York. It's more of, you can say, let's say a southerly routing for us. Normally the winds from westerly, they come from the west to the east, or the jet streams. They're very strong jet streams coming from the US all the way to Europe. So you want to avoid them as you're coming towards western parts, so towards America. And that's where we we were on the southern parts of the route. If you look at the route that we have taken today, we are flying close to the north, like towards Canada, and then we are setting course again southbound. And the reason for that is that we want to take advantage of the winds. And as I was discussing earlier with you, you can see our ground speed is quite high. At some point we were doing a ground speed of 600 nautical miles. And that's due to the reason that the winds were pushing us. And we do take advantage of that. We spend less fuel, less time in the air, and it's a shorter flight. So when you're flying west to east, you want to take advantage of the winds. When you're going east to west, you want to try and avoid the strong winds and stay lower than where they are blowing, and that way your flight time is reduced. Yes.
And on the flight between Nairobi and New York, I saw we passed a couple of countries, mostly across Africa.
Yes, we did. So again, we went the routing that we have right now. It's kind of north, and we are taking advantage of the westerly winds that are actually giving us a very good ground speed, and that thereby shortening our flight time. If you remember, we did around 15 hours. Today we are going to have 13 hours, so that's a difference of 2 hours, and it's all to do with winds. So when we flew to to New York from Nairobi, we went close to the equator, but south of the route that we are on right now, and we went over countries like DRC, into Nigeria, and we exited the Africa over Western Sahara. So that's quite a distance from where we are entering today, going on into Nairobi.
I'm not seeing you operating anything. So what's happening at the moment?
So the aircraft is on autopilot currently. As you can see, it's engaged. And also we have the auto throttle. In this particular airspace that we are on, we are maintaining a specific airspeed, which is 0.84 of the speed of sound. And that we have to maintain until we exit the oceanic airspace, of which we are flying over right now. So the autopilot basically does everything. When we were on ground, we set up our routing from New York to Nairobi, and it's already set on our flight management system. And so basically the aircraft or the autopilot is following the commands that we put on ground. Yes.
When there is turbulence, you'll still just be seated and watching, you'll do nothing?
It only happens when we're having our meals, right? But anyways, at the end of the day, it's a comfort for the passengers, because a lot of passengers are not, most of them are first timers. And anytime you have any kind of turbulence, you want to give comfort to the passengers. One of the things that we do is we select our seatbelt signs on. There's a particular speed that we have to fly that is, the aircraft can actually penetrate the turbulence comfortably. So those are the basic things that we do. We'll obviously have our seatbelt signs and our shoulder harnesses set so that we can be able to take over in case the turbulence exceeds the aircraft, the autopilot.
What are some of the things that a pilot must avoid to stay afloat?
I'd put it, bottom line is health, because our licenses, for me, KCA gives me or issues me with a license based on my medical. If my medical is clean, then they can issue me with my medical. So I could be an ace in the flight deck here, but if my medical is not, I don't have a clean bill for my medical, then I cannot fly. So basically, at the end of the day, it's how do you maintain your health status? That is the most important thing.
What do you tell the youth or a young person who wants to be like you?
Opportunities are there. If you're in school, studies, make sure that get your sciences up, and come and join us. We are looking forward. If you look at the aviation industry today, I think they're talking about every year there's a shortage of 20,000 pilots thereabout every year. Right now there's a very big shortage of pilots in the world. So I would really encourage a lot of young Kenyans to come in and get into the aviation industry.
Job aside, I've been flying for around 11 years, with KQ for 8 years now. Ranked from First Officer 7.3, now First Officer 7.8 for 4 years. I have approximately 5,000 hours and 3,000 on 787 since 2014. Yeah.
Okay. Which has been your longest non-stop flight?
Before New York, maybe Hanoi, we did approximately 10 hours plus of flight. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you feel having been part of the inaugural flight between Nairobi and New York?
It's been an honor. Yeah. A dream come true. Apart from joining flying school, the next biggest thing has been to do the inaugural flight to New York. Yeah. So I look forward now to probably try going for command, join them on the left seat on the smaller fleet, the Embraer. Yeah.